Good evening, this is The Last Word and I'm Maria Shakil. The 12-day war between Israel and Iran has come to a tentative truce and the geopolitical chessboard has been dramatically reshuffled. Let's break down for you who gained what in this high-stakes game. First up, the United States. The US, remember, has claimed a significant victory by diminishing Iran's nuclear capabilities. Deploying world-class weaponry, the Pentagon certainly has showcased its military prowess. And let's not forget the diplomatic coup of sorts. Washington and Donald Trump are basking in the glory of brokering peace. It is certainly now a triple win for Uncle Sam. Now let's turn to Israel. Benjamin Netanyahu. Israel has firmly established its air superiority against Iran, striking critical nuclear and military targets. The assassination of top IRGC, which is the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps commanders, and the takedown of Tehran's intel hawks have sent shockwaves through Iran's military hierarchy. And in a dramatic twist, former President, Donald Trump, joined the fray, rallying support for Israel. With Washington standing firmly with Tel Aviv, Netanyahu is likely to see a boost in the polls and a strategic masterstroke or a temporary reprieve. We'll know about it only in the next few months. What about Iran now? Despite the setbacks, Iran has displayed remarkable resilience. By standing up to the combined might of US and Israel, Tehran has bolstered its image as a formidable adversary. The narrative of resistance plays well domestically also for Supreme Leader Khamenei and across this region, even if the cost has been very high. It has also temporarily, though, silenced the Crown Prince in exile, Reza Pahlavi, who has urged the people of Iran to rise against the regime. So as the dust settles, each player claims their gains, but the game is far from over because the truce may or may not hold for now, but the underlying tensions remain. Remember, it's a war that could change the dynamics of the Middle East. A war which will shape the future of Israeli politics and the legacy of one of its most controversial figures, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. On October 7, 2023, Hamas launched a surprise assault on Israel, plunging Israel into a state of emergency. This attack certainly will be seen as a stain on Netanyahu's legacy. It's a glaring reminder of the vulnerability that persists under his leadership. And as Israel now faces another crisis in its ongoing war with Iran, Netanyahu's years-long focus on Tehran comes into sharp relief. He has long portrayed Iran as an existential threat, with its nuclear ambitions casting a long shadow over the region. The United States' backing of Israel in this conflict is a significant boost, certainly for Netanyahu. Domestically, this could be a lifeline for his troubled legacy, especially with elections looming next year. Israelis are now more focused than ever on the campaign against Iran's nuclear program, and Netanyahu's relentless warnings about Iran's nuclear ambitions seem, one would say indicative, but the question remains, will this war secure his political future or perhaps hasten his downfall? The impact on the upcoming elections is uncertain. While a US attack on Iran might give Netanyahu a temporary boost, it's still unclear how long that support will last. And Netanyahu continues to seek a normalization deal between Israel and Saudi Arabia, very, very crucial deal, a move that could reshape the geopolitical landscape. Yet he remains widely reviled across the Arab world, seen as a warmonger and a divisive figure. Global pressure has been mounting on Netanyahu, who faces an arrest warrant for his alleged war crimes in Gaza. His image as a destructive leader is hard to shake off, and the international community's scrutiny is relentless. So will Netanyahu rebound politically from this war? Or will his legacy be forever marred by the crises that have defined his tenure? Or only time will say. But one thing is certain, ladies and gentlemen, the stakes have never been higher for Israel's most polarizing leader. Let me bring in our first guest on the show tonight. Shelley Tal Miron is a Member of Parliament, joining me from Tel Aviv. Shelley, how do you look at the stakes, which are certainly very, very high for Benjamin Netanyahu? Is this war helping him set the narrative right at home in Israel?
Well, that's a very good question, but let me tell you, I'm an opposition member. I'm not a member of this government or coalition, and I support the war with Iran fully. And that is because Iran has been threatening the state of Israel for decades. It has been saying out loud that they want to eradicate the state of Israel, destroy it, using nuclear weapon and ballistic missiles. And so in this war, during the past 12 days, opposition and coalition stood together against Iran and against this cause. And I congratulate the U.S. administration and President Trump for joining in and attacking the targets in Fordo and the nuclear weapons there. And so, when it comes to our internal politics within Israel, of course, I have a lot of criticism to this government and to this prime minister. You can probably imagine that I'm not one of his biggest fans. But when it comes to the war with Iran, it's fully justified. And I just want to remind everyone that Iran is the head of the snake. It's been operating its terror groups around the world for decades. It's been funding them and operating them. That means Hamas in Gaza, Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Houthis in Yemen, and other militias across the world. And I think that destroying successfully the nuclear weapons that Iran was about to obtain and the ballistic missiles plan is a glorious achievement, not only for the state of Israel or for the US, but for the entire world. Because having Iran be a nuclear state is not only a threat to the state of Israel, it's a threat to the entire world. And also, we don't want a nuclear arms race within the Middle East. Once Iran has a nuclear weapon, other countries will want to join in. That's not very healthy for the Middle East or the world. And also, we don't want terrorists around the world to try and have what you call dirty suitcases of enriched uranium going around to use it for terror objects. And so, when it comes to our politics, we can hash it out within our country later on. Let's see that this ceasefire exists, that everything happens peacefully, Shelley, and we can move forward to our inner politics.
Yes. So you have made an interesting observation, and you started by saying about it that, you're not part of the coalition, you're not part of the government, you are part of rather the opposition, and you're still backing Netanyahu's move against Iran. But because a ceasefire has been agreed upon, will it really benefit him in the narrative? Do you think the ceasefire, did Netanyahu really achieve the objective he set out for?
Well, I think that when we have such a situation in the state of Israel, we all look at the best interest of the state of Israel and not politicians. And so that's the reason that Israelis stood together against Iran, because we were looking at our main existence and the well-being of our country and our citizens, and not politics. During this ceasefire, I'm hoping that it will be a leverage to also end the war in Gaza and bring back our 50 hostages who are still there. We had 250 people kidnapped into Gaza on October 7th, 2023, and now we still have 50 hostages. So when it comes to the war in Gaza, I've said over and over again that it should end, and we have to bring the hostages back home within a deal. So we do have differences of opinions when it comes to different parts of the war that we've been a part of for the past 626 days. And we will have to wait and see when it comes to our politics and the polls and what's going to happen to Prime Minister Netanyahu. Is he going to stay within the political life or not? For sure, I can say as an opposition member that he is a rival, within politics. But we are all together united when it comes to the existence of the state of Israel. And therefore, we stood together with the government with this decision. And I'm hoping that the agreement that they want to bring with Iran will still uphold what we have talked about all along. That means never allowing Iran to become a nuclear state, not having them have, ballistic missiles, not having them have enriched uranium, and maintaining, peace within Israel and other countries as well.
But there hasn't been any regime change, that was one of the objectives.
Well, it wasn't one of the objectives, actually. The state of Israel has said that the two goals are the nuclear weapons and the ballistic missiles. Let me say this. There is no question that the regime within Iran is, a fanatic regime that oppresses minorities and does horrible things. I think Iran should go and become a democracy. I think it's about time for that to happen, and I'm sure many Iranians will be happy for that to happen. But that is not one of the goals that the state of Israel has set, and that will be a decision that will have to be made within Iran. We should not interfere with their regime. It should come from within. So that is up to the Iranian people. And let me say, 40 years ago, Israel had amazing relations with Iran. And we have no problem with the Iranian people. We only have a problem with the regime that wanted to destroy our country. We have no problem with the people themselves.
All right, Ms. Shelley, appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us here.
Thank you for having me.
Zamir Abbas Jafri is professor at Al Mustafa International University in Qom. Zamir, are you hopeful? Are the people hopeful there that this truce will hold?
Thank you very much for having me on the show. First of all, the halt of cessation which has happened right now between Iran and Israel, there are a few points which I want to just clarify. First is the request was made by Israel. Second, it was Iran has clearly made a statement. The official statement states that there is no trust on the enemy, because the past of the enemy is that it has this habit of breaking the ceasefire, and it has done in Lebanon, in different countries as well. Repeatedly, they have been doing that. Third is Iran is ready for retaliation. Once the ceasefire was made or announced, or Israel has still broken many times. And the last, this afternoon as well, they attacked Tehran and Mazandaran as well. So Israel is a country which is known for killing children, having genocide. Human Rights Watch calls it as a country, or what they're doing is genocide, or the prime minister of this country is called for human rights violation, and there is international criminal court has issued a warrant against such a country. If such a country exists, then how can you trust such a country? It has broken so many international resolutions, United Nations resolutions. So nobody can trust Israel. Nobody.
Okay, but what about your own allies? I mean, after what happened in 2023, Israel says that it's full within its rights to defend the sovereignty of, of its land and also its people.
By which law?
Hamas, Hezbollah, are they not your allies?
Okay. Do we have any international laws, or the world is a jungle raj? Anybody can do whatever they want. According to all international laws, attack of Israel was illegal. According to all international laws, American attack was illegal. Okay. According to United Nations charters, everything. Okay. So, but the base of this, that Iran is producing a nuclear bomb, and then you attack a country, and the IAEA chief comes and says there is no evidence of nuclear bomb. Then Tulsi Gabbard comes and says there is no evidence of nuclear bomb. So it's like that you create a false premise, and then on that false premise, you create actions, and then you go back and say, no, this false premise is the right premise. Where is the evidence? I would ask you, or the member of the Knesset, or anybody in the world, to show an evidence. The IAEA chief says there is no evidence. Okay, Iran is a signatory to NPT. Iran, the inspection. Let's go back just to 2015. Iran signed JCPO. All the world came together. It was America and the 4 European countries. Iran signed it from 2015 till 2018. 18 times IAEA said that we are fully satisfied with the inspection inside Iran. And then 2019, this gentleman comes and he tears apart that agreement and says that, oh, we are not interested in this. And on top of that, breaking all international laws, we have the audacity to ask the country which has been attacked illegally to prove that, oh, why do you have a nuclear weapon when there is no proof? Anybody cannot prove that. Or even one iota of an evidence, anybody cannot prove that. So, I mean, it's surprising. The world that we live in is completely surprising.
All right, Professor Jaffrey, a word on, will this ceasefire hold? Or will we continue to see repeated violation?
Look, with Israel, the violations will exist and the retaliations will take place. Let me just add one more point, that what we are seeing right now is not because Iran initiated it. Israel initiated an illegal war and Iran retaliated it. And Iran will make sure that the sovereign nation that they have and any illegal action against them will be answered. Just one more point, if you have time, I'll explain you regarding the proxy thing, that which is the copy paste media narrative from the Western media narrative, and we do not think about it. Let's start with Hezbollah. Okay, was Hezbollah created first, or Israel attacked Lebanon first? Or Israel occupied Lebanon first, or Hezbollah was created first? In 1980, Israel attacked Lebanon and it occupied Lebanon. Okay, approximately 40% of the land of Lebanon was occupied. And after that, in 1985, Hezbollah was created, which is a liberation movement. But we don't go back and read the history. And Hezbollah was able to force Israel to go out of Lebanon in the year 2000. So just come out and give me one evidence that Hezbollah was involved in a terrorist organization. I ask you, or anybody, to provide me one evidence that Hezbollah was involved in a terrorist organization anywhere in the world, except fighting Israel.
All right, there are a number of questions perhaps that will continue to be raised. Professor Jaffrey, appreciate your time. The spotlight clearly is now on Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. What does this conflict mean for his future? Let's break that down. On the positive side, Khamenei has managed to survive the regime change threat, emerging stronger in the eyes of the Iranian public. He's seen as a leader who stood up against the formidable forces of the United States and Israel, and the war has showcased Iran's capacity to strike back at Israel, reinforcing Khamenei's image as a resilient and defiant leader. However, the negatives cannot be ignored. The war has dealt a significant blow to Iran's nuclear program, which Khamenei had long touted as a symbol of national pride. This setback is a bitter pill to swallow for a regime that has invested so much in its nuclear ambitions. Moreover, Iran finds itself more isolated in the region, with its adversaries emboldened and its alliances strained. So what's next for Khamenei? His position may have solidified for now, but the road ahead is fraught with challenges. The supreme leader's ability to navigate these turbulent waters will determine now what will be his legacy and also his future and the future of Iran itself. Let me bring in our guests now. Professor Jahangir is joining me from Israel, Tel Aviv to be specific. James Borden is joining me as well. He's a Middle East expert. James, I'm beginning with you. What do you think Khamenei achieved the end game, but it came at the cost of what he had projected so far as his country's pride, the symbol of Iran's pride, which was the nuclear weaponry and the nuclear systems?
Well, I'd like to emphasize to begin with that I think if I were Khamenei, I would stay hidden for the next week or two. Israel, their intelligence community has a saying that plans fail for a lack of deception, but in a multiplicity of deceptions, there's victory. And so, even though we're in a nominal ceasefire period, I think that he should guard his position and keep himself hidden for a little while to make sure that Israel doesn't take an opportunistic strike. For Khamenei, he can definitely emerge and say that, yes, he did keep the country intact to a point. The Iranian propaganda machine and media messaging is very strong, and so they're not going to back down. I mean, you've got two countries in the Middle East, both Israel and Iran, who have extensive training in publicizing their victories and minimizing their defeats. You know, you hear about the victories in the news, and then you read about in the history books their defeats. And so I think that for the first few weeks, we're going to continue to hear nothing but, hey, we've succeeded, we defeated the Israelis, we got them to back down and got them to be pushed into a ceasefire deal. And for a while, we're going to hear that Israel was highly successful.
So, but who won and who lost? Can Khamenei tell his people that he actually managed to emerge stronger, that Iran emerged stronger despite attacks, precision strikes on Iran's nuclear sites?
No, Iran has not emerged stronger. They have lost even what little conventional military they had. Their nuclear program is in tatters. It has not been obliterated. We'll scale back and roll back some of that Donald Trumpian language, but it was significantly damaged. We're back to about 2009 or so. So no, Iran is not stronger. They are visibly weakened. They have been weakened over the process of this war. You know, October 7th, 2023 really was a watershed moment. It totally opened the door for reshaping in the Middle East, and now Iran is not able to be in the hegemonic position that it was previous to this. Their nuclear program was one thing that they could kind of wave around in the Middle East and say, we're going to be able to nuke you in a short time. And now that's gone. And so they're visibly weaker. Now, that doesn't mean that the Middle East is in a better position, because as I've been saying on a number of occasions, you know, the Persian Gulf and many of the Middle Arab countries, they didn't want a hegemonic Iran, but they certainly don't want a hegemonic Israel. And watching as they've gone from victory to victory, I'm sure that has increased their fear as to what they may face from that area.
Okay, so Professor Jahangir, how is the Middle East, what changes in the Middle East after this war?
Namaskar. A lot changes in the Middle East, but I really want to come to the question, who won? So there was this very famous IR scholar, Kenneth Waltz, who said, winning a war, or someone who claims winning a war, is like winning an earthquake. Nobody wins a war.
Yes.
There is a relative degree of defeat. And as James said, Iran has lost the significant part in this battle. Israel has certainly lost some people, but Israel has achieved what it really wanted to achieve for the last 20 years, and a strike on the Iranian nuclear program. I think a new Middle East will be new if Donald Trump gets to the business of the Palestinian state. I'm sure there are many people who talk about, will he get the Nobel Peace Prize? He will get a Nobel Peace Prize if he really recognizes the Palestinian state and joins the Saudi and the French initiative to recognize the Palestinian state that were just on the table before 13th of June happened. So I think new Middle East is really far unless that happens. And we don't see that possibility because Israel's war in Gaza is going to really follow the same path after this attack. I was listening to the Israeli members of the Knesset from the Yesh Atid party that you were talking before. And yes, I have been in Israel for the last 3 weeks, and this was the first time in maybe last 15, 20 years that Israel was united, deeply united behind Netanyahu. And maybe Netanyahu has assured another electoral victory for himself by doing what he did in Iran. However, the real problem of the Israeli future is actually in Gaza and with the religious divisions within the society. I think Arab world may not fear hegemonic Israel. Israel will not be hegemonic because Israel also suffers a deep diplomatic isolation. Let's not forget, just before 13th of June, some of the most formidable Western countries, England, Canada, Australia, Norway, they issued a sanction against the Israeli sitting ministers of the cabinet. So I think Israel will have to attend a lot of business to what happened in Gaza and what's happening inside Israel for the coming years. And Arab world is on a different path. They have joined Abraham Accords. They are doing I2U2. They are doing IMAC with India. I think Arab world is also.
So you are sensing, Professor Jahangir, that perhaps the Abraham Accords will now finally see the light of the day. That long-touted, victory which was seen by the United States of having brokered, or at least the talks had begun between Saudi Arabia and Israel, will go back to the talking table.
I wish it really gets revived. I do think that now the circumstances have completely gone in favor for the allies of Israel to push Israel out of unilateralism. Think of it, India. India's economic corridor relies upon a stable Middle East. So what would Indian counterpart will ask Israeli Prime Minister? Anything but to say, let's make the region stable and let's work. So Israel cannot be on a unilateral path that it is determined for last 2 years in Gaza. So it's actually going to be a much diplomatic, unpleasant time for Israel now that the world has shown that it is behind Israel. All of the allies, including India, by the way, it has stood firmly behind Israel. It did not condemn the unprovoked, as so-called unprovoked attack on Iran.
Okay, so, here is Iran, James Borden, which is claiming moral victory. Here is Israel, which is claiming victory. United States also says that it played a role and hence, Donald Trump is the peacekeeper. Everybody seems to be happy towards the end now.
Yes, and I think that we're going to be entering into a very interesting period because I'm already hearing and picking up in Israeli media some voices of frustration, some voices of feeling like they haven't gotten everything done. And going back to a previous point about the post-conflict politics, whenever Israel has been in a time of feeling peaceful and reassured, they've taken that anger and frustration towards the region and turned it inwards. And so I'm not exactly sure how long this is going to last. Israel and Iran have had historical existential hatred towards each other. And so we may be in a break. We may actually see Israel-Iran war 2 come down the pike because there may be feelings that they did not accomplish everything that they wanted to the first time.
All right, James Borden and Professor Jahangir, really appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us. That's all from me on this edition of The Last Word.